Hey, this is Robert Naini, your spray foam advisor. And this week I want to talk about site protection and specifically physical site protection. When you're on a job, when you go into somebody's building, you go into their residence, you go into to a structure that they own, that belongs to them, you are dealing with other people's property. You are dealing with a prized possession by many people out there. Oftentimes the most expensive investment that they will ever make in their lifetime. Now, it's critical that you take care of what they are allowing you to work on. This means site protection becomes an utmost priority when we're dealing with a liquid adhesive material like spray foam insulation. So what does this mean? It means appropriate masking and prep procedures. It means covering up anything that you wouldn't want to have overspray on. It means making sure that you're protecting the things that are in their building, that are in their house, that are in their structure, the way you would if it was your own structure. What am I talking about here? I'm talking about doors and windows. Those are the most obvious things, right? It's very, very tedious. It's very difficult to get overspray off of anything. But doors and windows are so easy to damage and so easy to cause a problem. You have to pay attention to those things. Also, what about tubs? Is there a tub on site already? If it's a new build, is there a tub that has to be covered and protected if it's a retrofit project? What about stained concrete? Have you ever tried to get overspray or ISO off of stained concrete? It is near impossible. It's very, very difficult and maybe near impossible in many circumstances. Oftentimes, I see on pretty much any kind of concrete that there's a footprint of some kind left behind even when you get the foam particles off of there. And if it's stained concrete, that is a disaster. That is absolutely not going to work. What about stained glass? I mean, I said windows already, but stained glass, that brings a special amount of pizzazz to a structure. And if you try to take a razor blade to that stained glass, it could possibly have other effects that we don't know about, that I don't know about. I'm not an expert on stained glass by any means. Ultimately, what I'm talking about is making sure that you're protecting the structure in such a way that you don't create damage that A, can give your company a bad name, that can give your company a bad reputation, but that can also have a whiplash effect on the whole spray foam industry. Because what you do, the actions that you take in your local market, affects spray foam contractors all across the market, because the internet is viral. The internet is out there. And when we hear horror stories, most of the time it's not from someone locally to us. That's not how news travels these days. Most of the time it's on the internet. So what you're doing affects everybody around you. So do what you can to lift up your market, to lift up your local area, help coach and guide those around you that aren't doing those things, because what they do not only affects your market directly, but it also affects the market as a whole. So site protection is critical. Protect all of the things around you. If by some chance you do get overspray on something that is very common, obviously roofers that are out there know this, but overspray on cars, it can be very common, especially in roofing applications. But guys, even if you're working indoor, you can't discount the fact that there might be overspray on vehicles outside. You have to pay attention to that as well. How does it happen? It happens with where you place your exhaust fan. Your exhaust fan could be exhausting particles that are still floating through the air and find a vehicle outside, or the house next door, or another building in the area, or the parking lot. I mean, you have to pay attention to where your exhaust fan's going. Ideally, you want to filter your exhaust air so that you're not exhausting particulates, adhesive particulates, from the structure. And then you want to make sure that where your exhaust air is going is not going to cause some bigger amount of damage. Also, how can this happen? If you ever walked into a structure and seen two pieces of sheeting that didn't actually butt up to each other perfectly and they had a tiny, tiny gap, well, guess what? You're spraying a high pressure liquid material, and when it hits that gap, mist can come out the other side if it's not properly covered up. So you want to make sure you cover those, tape those joints, tape those seams when there's daylight. When you can see daylight, you have to expect your atomized particles to go through that daylight and to the outside and possibly affecting structures. If you're working on the exterior of a building, what are you going to do? You pretty much, I mean, I'm not telling you how to do your job, but tinting is going to be the safest approach to exterior work, providing some type of cover or tint or windshield on the exterior of the structure is going to be the best way to mitigate overspray and potentially mitigate any risk of damaging, of creating damage here and there and, you know, in other parts of the surrounding area. So in the case that you do get, you know, overspray on something, I highly recommend, you know, researching overspray cleanup procedures. But there's, you know, some Clay Magic is one of the products I know of pretty well. It's a bar-like material that you can actually rub on the surface, and that helps take off some, you know, spray foam overspray, and it can actually help clean up surfaces. But I highly recommend researching it. Talk to the manufacturers you're working with. They're definitely going to have recommendations for how to clean up overspray. But I'll tell you, it's a very tedious process. It's time consuming, and in the long run, it's not something you want to deal with. So pay attention, have a good eye on your jobs, and prep the jobs as if they were your own home. That's the best advice I can give you. This has been Robert Naini with Spray Foam Advisor. Thanks for checking us out. Catch us on some more videos. I love questions. Anyone out there, feel free to shoot in a question. I'll give you an email address right here for any questions you have. Send them to questions@sprayfoamadvisor.com. sprayfoamadvisorsingular.com. So questions@sprayfoamadvisor.com. Go ahead and send those questions in. I'll get to as many of them as I can, and I'll try to incorporate a select few into some of my weekly videos. And of course, if you like this video, go ahead and subscribe to the blog if you haven't already done that. Find us on YouTube and like and follow us there. And check us out on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Find us on all of your favorite social media sites, and you can keep up with the words of wisdom coming out of Spray Foam Advisor. Thank you very much for joining us. I appreciate it. We'll catch you on some more videos. Take care.